So thank you guys for coming back this week for my part 2. Like I said, I knew this video was going to be really long, so I just wanted to break it up a little bit and tell you guys what happened. So to pick up where I left off last week, I was in the emergency room with my ex-husband, and we had just found out we were having a bundle of joy. I was super excited. I was 25 at the time, and I'm super excited because it's my first baby, and I felt like I was getting too old. We had been married for about 2.5 years by then, and so we hadn't gotten pregnant. And you know, it sucks that we got pregnant around, you know, times that we were having turmoil already. But you know, I felt like maybe it was God saying, hey, you guys should give this another shot. So super excited. His family was super excited too. My family was super excited as well. And it was just a good time for all of us as far as, you know, the family. Not so much still for he and I. He was still like staying out late after work and hanging out and stuff, and not every night, but you know, more nights out of the week than I cared for him to. He was trying to do little things like he would order me food if he was gonna go out and, you know, have a beer with the guys. You know, God knows what he was doing. So like he would order me food or something like that and pay for it and make sure I ate and things like that. But you know, like, you're my husband, like that's like bare minimum anyway. So it just really wasn't a great time. He actually had a son, because I forgot to mention that in my last video, that the baby that his ex had did end up being his. So we had like his son over one time, and you know, I was thinking like, oh, we can kind of just be mock parents for the weekend. And he was just real standoffish with him too. It was like, I mean, we just couldn't get it together. We just, and by we, I mean him. Just in case you guys were wondering. So it just sucked pretty much. Like, it was just not a cool time. And for me to be pregnant and, you know, still have all this stress and things like that, like, it just wasn't, you know, good for me or my little one. Tried to do my best. You know, when it started getting out of control again, I told him, look, sir, you might have a baby that's calling somebody else daddy if you don't get your life together. Well, he didn't like that at all, but it was the truth. I'm sorry. So the truth hurts. He did start acting better though. So maybe that did, you know, jog something in him to be like, okay, well, she's not playing. No, I'm not. So things got a little bit better for a little while. I was 17 weeks pregnant. It was a Monday. And something happened where I found out that he was still texting whoever he was cheating on me with. And although I have my suspicions for who it was, I really don't know exactly. One suspicion is that it was this girl that actually, me and her were cool because we worked together at the detention center where I was working. And then she moved to his detention center because he wound up doing the same job I did. So have my suspicions that it could be her. Have other suspicions too that I'm not going to put out there. So it is what it is. I mean, at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter at this point. So he was like texting with this person, and I was asking him and like, you know, really like probing him about like, you know, is this still going on? Like, what are you doing? Like, what is going on? Like this one night, it was just like someone was blowing him up. I'm like, so evidently they're arguing. So how are you arguing with your side chick? Like, ugh, like all this is so beyond me at this point. I'm like, what is wrong with you? So he is still cheating on me, and I am so almost 5 months pregnant, and it was just a hormonal overload. It was just a huge blow that I'm sitting here with your baby in my belly, making, you know, real life plans with you. And I mean, it was just a dark time. That night was really bad. I locked myself in the bathroom, and I'm crying and holding my stomach. It's just like, what is like, what is the point of all this, Lord? Like, how can you be doing this to me? Like, how can you let him do this? Like, it was a bad time. So I'm still super upset. Like I said, I locked myself in the bathroom, and he's trying to get me to come out of the bathroom, and he's yelling outside the door, and he tells me, because I'm just ugly cry in the bathroom at this point, he tells me that if I lose the baby, that he will hate me. Word for word. So fast forward to Friday, I'm at work and I start having these funky cramps, and I'm like, what's going on? So I tell my supervisor, I'm like, look, I don't know what's going on, but you know, I just called my doctor and I told them what was going on, and they told me that I should go to the ER, and that's what I'm doing. So he was fine with it, whatever. I called my ex-husband and told him about it, and he came to pick me up and drove me to the hospital. That hospital was really busy that night. I told them what was going on. They would not let me go to the labor and delivery because I was 2 weeks shy of being 20 weeks. So they made me stay in the regular ER. I was in the ER for about 2 hours, and they triaged me and stuff like that. I could barely, like by the time they triaged me, I could barely walk. I could barely stand. I was in so much excruciating pain. I had no idea what was going on because like I said, it was only about 17, 18 weeks. Then I go to the bathroom because I just felt like I needed to sit on the toilet. Like, evidently that's a really common thing, but I didn't know because I hadn't gotten to the point where I had, you know, these talks with my doctor about these types of things. So my doctor was out of town, and the on-call doctor, you know, was around or whatever, but so I couldn't go in the office because she wasn't there, so they told me to go to the ER. So I was just kind of stuck there. Perfect storm, of course. So sitting there on the toilet, I feel like I'm like envisioning myself doing all of this right now because I'm sitting in this chair. And it just felt so much better. But felt so good, and I sat so long that I couldn't get back up. So I can't get back up, and that was not fun because I had to be like one of those people on like the Life Alert commercials and pull the little emergency string in the bathroom. Excuse me, I felt like just like such a weirdo. Like, I don't know, like I felt like crazy to pull that string, like, but I legitimately could not get up. So that was the only thing that I could do. That was my only option, is to pull that string. I mean, I could have called my husband, I guess, on the phone looking back, but I think he had my purse. So like nurses come running in the bathroom, and I'm telling them what's going they had a wheelchair, I believe. They wheeled me to the one of the like the back rooms or whatever, so they took me in right away. So I went back and got in a room. They like immediately started doing stuff and working on me and getting like blood pressure cuffs on and the heart monitor for the baby, and they're just like, she's so pale, she's so pale. And they were having a little bit of difficulty finding the baby's heartbeat. I think they found it faintly. So within 10 minutes, the baby just slid out. I barely felt it because he was so tiny and I was dilated, you know, and all those things. So like I barely kind of felt it, and he just slid out on the bed. The nurses are like, she lost him, she lost him. What sucks about their statement was that we were probably 3 days away from the doctor's appointment to tell us what we were having. So I'm lying there and the pain had instantly went away, and I understood what they say about, you know, once you have a baby, you just forget about all the pain, because I felt like it had completely went away almost, you know, not completely, but the cramps and all of that, you know, like it went all away. And I remember feeling guilty, like I'm praying that these pains will go away and that they'll stop. And they did. However, it was at the expense of me losing the baby. So of course I'm feeling like a horrible person for, you know, 10 minutes earlier praying nothing but for my pain to go away. And when they went away, as soon as he was out of my body. So the nurses come in, well, they went out with him, they wrapped him in a towel, went out with him, and they come back and they're like, do you want to hold him? I'm like, no, like, because I didn't know what he was gonna look like and what the situation was like. I'm like, no, like, I didn't know like what a 17-week-old baby, you know, was gonna look like. So, you know, initially I said no, and then she came back a second time, and she was like, he's alive, do you want to hold him? Like, duh, you crazy fool, like, yes. Like, yes. I'm holding my baby, and his eyes were still mad at shut. But, you know, he has, everything else is formed. His skin was still pretty, like, transparent, like, you know how you can see, like, the veins and stuff, like, you know, now, like, I can see my veins, but, like, his body was, like, you kind of see, like, everything. It was just real red, like, his skin didn't have, like, you know, it was just, like, a thin layer of skin, like, it wasn't, like, any bulk to it or anything, but, like, you can tell, you know, just a little bit about what he looked like in his face, you know, and he had eyebrows, and obviously you can tell he's a boy. So, you know, his fingers and toes and, you know, his feet, like, you can see those really good. And he was 12 inches and he was 5.5 ounces. My ex-husband sitting in a chair crying, and, you know, the nurses are comforting his, you know, boo-hooing self while I'm holding the baby, and I'm just like crying and crying and crying, and they're just like, we're so sorry, we're so sorry. And I mean, like, I can still picture a lot of this vividly. So forgive me for the waterworks. I haven't talked about this in a long time. So like I could just see his little, like, just like I couldn't really see how he was breathing. Like it was just so subtly through his mouth and nose. Like I couldn't like feel it or anything, but you know, I could see his, you know, chest rise and fall. And so they let us have some time, and then they took him to like give him a bath and stuff, and put him on some clothes and things, and he was alive through that whole bath, and they took pictures and stuff of him, and gave us like a keepsake box and things like that with his pictures in it. And I forgot to say too that the lady said that they knew he was alive. They originally thought that, you know, he wasn't alive, but when they had taken him out of the room the first time and then brought him back, they said that they knew that he was alive because he had like clenched somebody's finger. So wish I would have had that moment, but it's just those couple hours for him being alive was just it was so emotional. Like I just never thought that I would be that person that would leave a hospital without my baby. You know, like you think the process is that you go in, you have a baby, and then they leave with you. I never pictured that not happening. There's so many things and emotions, and it was so much stress, and it was just horrible. I left the hospital that night without my baby, and it was horrible. I just remember feeling like such a failure. Like my family is so excited to have him, and it was like to tell them that he didn't make it was just horrible. Such an empty feeling. So horrible. So my sister helped me and him with like making, I didn't want to do a funeral because I didn't want to have to say goodbye to him twice. Like leaving the hospital and leaving him there, like that was already just too much. So we just made plans to have him cremated, and so we went to the funeral home to just, you know, finalize those kinds of things, and we picked him up a couple of days later. We went to the funeral home to just sign papers and stuff, and they told us that he was there. It was like me and my ex-husband both like wanted to see him, and it was just I think it took everything in both of us not to, like, you know, ask to see him, because I just felt like I couldn't see him like that, like where it would be like days and days and days. You know, I'd already had to hold him until he died. And that's just a really huge emotional toll for any young mother to have to hold their baby until they die. Like, devastating. So my ex-husband and I had previously made a plan to move to Georgia and just have a fresh start. And, you know, it seemed fitting after all of this to just go away. But it didn't make anything easier. He definitely lived up to his promise of hating me if I lost the baby, and things never got any better. You know, we were just kind of going one day at a time, and there's just so much resentment, mostly on his part, which, I mean, I feel like I had 10 times more things to be resentful about, but I was a young girl trying to save her marriage and trying to, you know, just keep her family together. And he didn't want to have any more kids because, you know, he was selfish. He had a son already. We had lost a son, and he just felt like that was all that, you know, he had left in him. So it's sad, because then, you know, I'm 26 years old and I'm having to deal with my husband telling me that he doesn't want any kids. He doesn't want to try again. So there was just so much just resentment and so much stress, and things, like I said, they just never got any better. I mean, I can't speak for him to say like how he was feeling, and so, you know, if he's bothered by this video, I don't know what to tell him, because all I can tell, you know, or explain to anybody is my part and my portion and how it made me personally feel. I mean, he just wasn't a good husband. He was just very neglectful of me and things like that. And I mean, he really left me open to, you know, be, he left me so emotionally open that it made me feel like, you know, I need to go and be with someone else then. Like, I mean, if you don't love me, you act like you hate me, you walk around here like barely talking to me, barely wanting to spend time with me, you know, like barely wanting to touch me, you know, like it was bad. It had gotten so bad. And that's why I said I really feel like he, you know, stayed true to his word that he was gonna hate me if I lost the baby, and that's pretty much what it seemed like. I mean, I really got to a point where after telling him, you know, one day, I'm not gonna put up with this anymore, one day, you know, and that day came, and I just had a serious talk with him about us just getting a divorce and going our own separate ways. And like, you know, I understand whatever it is that you're feeling, and, you know, however it's, you know, made you feel about our relationship. And so I'm just coming to terms with this at this point, and I'm ready to move on. And so I filed for divorce in 2013. So we were separated but living in the same apartment because neither one of us could really afford to stay in Georgia by ourselves in Atlanta, and it's super crazy expensive. So we were still living in the same apartment together, but we were sleeping in separate beds. I mean, we were on different shifts. I worked in the morning, he worked at night, so we barely saw each other. And it just was, you know, it fallen apart. And we were just living separate lives. We got our divorce finalized in December of 2013. So it's gonna be 5 years this year. And I mean, I'll tell you, I don't look back. You know, people will ask me, oh, do you talk to him? Do you miss him? Do you still this? Do you still that? And I'm like, if you knew this story, if you lived through what I lived through with him, like, you wouldn't ask me that. Like, the answer is no. Like, do I care what he's doing? Do I care who he's with? Do I want to talk to him? Do I care to ever see him in my life again? No. And I mean, people can take it how they take it, but I mean, I feel like it's a blessing for me that I just feel like it was a life that never happened, that, you know, wasn't my own, that, you know, like it was a dream that I woke up from. And of course, I'm not delusional. So I know, yes, this did really happen. But at the same time, the way I emotionally feel about it is that it was another life. And I'm grateful that I got out and I was 30 by the time we got divorced. So, you know, this went on for 6 years. And I'm grateful that I don't hold that every day. Like, I don't walk around in that. Like, I mean, I know it seems like some women just never move on from being divorced, and maybe it's because they have kids together, and so, you know, they just, you know, have to stay in contact, and then they keep getting frustrated about things. It's like, I just choose to stay in my peace and just not talk to him, not deal with him or anything, like, here and there. I mean, I can count on one hand probably how many times I've texted him since we've been divorced, and pretty much all of those times have been to discuss like business, like our accounts, because, you know, old habits die hard, you know, still overdrafting accounts and having joint accounts means that, you know, they will pull money from your account to put it in somebody else's. So that got ended really fast. And, you know, it's not to bash him, but I mean, I'm sorry, like, this is my story, and I'm sure that I'm not out there by myself. I'm sure a lot of women have probably just had husbands that were just man children, and they just did not step up. And, you know, he can only say that I nagged him. Well, you know what? You needed to be nagged. You know, come on now, cut it out. Like, you don't have anything negative that you can say. I gave like 110%. And so it is what it is. And I had to move on. And I don't feel bad for it. I definitely don't look back. And I wish that I never would have done it. I feel like I never should have married this person. I feel like when it was all said and done, you know, even though, yes, God will recognize a marriage, I really feel like it was something that never should have happened. And I really feel like God was showing me that I never should have done it. And I was too foolish not to listen. And I was so young. I was 20 freaking 2. Like, I'm sorry, that's the only thing I have to blame it on. I was young and dumb. And now, looking back as a 35-year-old woman, I just understand and see things so much differently. And if, you know, my story can help someone out there that is thinking about getting married, but knowing that there's some red flags, you got to clear that crap up before you do something that's so permanent, you know, and you can't change anyone. God can change people, yes, but you can't go into a marriage thinking that you are going to change them. You can't even go into a marriage thinking that God is going to change them. Can God change someone? Yes. Will he? Who knows? That's up to him. Because, like I said earlier on in the video, is that, you know, you have to think about not everybody going where God's sending you. And so, yes, you could have this perfect plan for you and this perfect person to be together, but is God like leading you guys in the same direction? Or, you know, are you meant to go this way and they're meant to go that way? because everybody's on their own individual walk. And so if you're not walking together, then, you know, you're not going to have peace. And I am a believer in being equally yoked. And I do think that's really hard in today's day and age to find someone that is equally yoked. Because our world is just, it's just a lot. It's just the disillusionment of, you know, the people that are my age and younger is just, it's just so off the chain. Like, I sit and think about it sometimes when I see things that people post on social media and the way people think and their mindsets, and it's like, God, we are so lost, and there's just no wonder why marriages fail. There's no wonder why, you know, I feel like I can't find a good man, because what is good anymore? Like, things have just changed so much, and it's a hard knock life. I think I said that in my last video, but it's so true. Jay-Z coined that, over a decade ago, but it's still reigning true. It's hard, and it's hard for people that are dating. So, you know, I hope that if you are someone that's married, that you will step up and fight for your marriage, and hope that if you're someone that's single and thinking about getting married or is engaged, that you will make sure that this is the relationship that God wants you to be in, and this is the man that God has for you. Do not ignore red flags. They save your life. Are you going to ignore warning signals if you're driving? No, you're going to do what you need to do, make the proper adjustments so that you don't get into an accident. So that's kind of something that I hope that you guys will think about if you're younger, and you know, even if you're my age and you're thinking about getting married. Settling is not an option. I really feel like God sends us these red flags and these warnings, and we need to take heed to them. So it's something that's easier said than done, believe me. But at the same time, it's not worth it. It's not worth you wasting the rest of your pretty years on, you know, a marriage that you already feel might fail. Like, what would be the point? You know, I'm thinking about a wedding that I never actually even got. You know, and spending my life with someone and having babies, and look what happened to me and my baby, you know? So I'm not bitter about it anymore. I really was likely mad at God for a really long time about the baby situation, but you know, as I've gotten older, as time has gone by, like, I am so thankful that I don't have to deal with him and my son. Like, I really feel like everything that I saw from him and his irresponsibility, that there's no way I would have wanted my child to have a father like that. There's no way I would have been like, oh, you're gonna take him for the summer? Okay, bye. No, I would have been a horrible mess. Like, you know, Southerners say, I would have been a hot mess. With worry and fear, like, no, sir, you're not taking my child out of this home. You can come and have, you know, supervised visitation with me. And that's really how I feel like I would have been. And so I know that God knows best, and I know where my baby is, and I'm just hoping that Uncle Lewis is watching over him, both of his Uncle Lewises, and my grandma, and I have comfort in that. So that's fine. He's good. And I'm good, and you know, God definitely gave me back everything that I lost, and so I have peace in that. So I hope that you guys were touched and inspired by this story. I hope that you guys can appreciate my transparency and know that it's not me bashing my ex-husband, but I feel like telling people you know, like not even really the half of it, but telling people just like these key things that I think are, you know, kind of common in marriages, you know, fighting about money, cheating, you know, kids, all those kinds of things go on, losing a kid, you know, those are big things. So I just wanted to be able to share those things with you guys. Hopefully one of you out there will think differently about marrying that sucker, and just give it a little bit more time and wait on God and see what he has for you, because he's never gonna withhold his best from you unless you do something to screw it up. So anyway, thank you guys for watching. Please leave a comment below if you enjoyed the video or if you have any other follow-up questions. I know the first video was a little bit like up and down and around, but I really actually didn't script this. I really felt like I wanted to just speak this one through my heart, and I kept thinking all week, like, really need to write down what I'm gonna say and how I'm gonna say it and what I'm gonna include, and I just really didn't do that this week. So this is really genuine, to say the very least. So give me a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you guys next week.